Just put this one on fire. From clashes over land and grazing rights in Benue State and coordinated ethnic militia attacks in Plateau State to resurgence of insurgency in Northeast and banditry attacks in Northwest, as well as parts of North Central, insecurity threatened the very fiber of Nigeria's existence in 2025. The Global Terrorism Index ranked Nigeria 6th worldwide in 2025, up from 8th in the previous year. Behind the statistics are human stories, lives lost, families displaced, and communities living in fear.
If you look at the West African security tracker, it's indicated that there are over 5,000 incidents in Nigeria, which amounts to about 12,900 deaths all over Africa, West Africa, and of these 12,900 deaths in West Africa, Nigeria accounts for 45% of this death.
In the face of the attacks, President Bola Tinubu reshuffled the service chiefs, replacing the then Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, with the then Chief of Army Staff, General Olufemi Oluyede. The president appointed new Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Air Staff, and Chief of Naval Staff. He also declared a nationwide security emergency and ordered the Inspector General of Police to immediately withdraw police personnel attached to very important personalities. Also following a wave of attacks in November, including an attack on church worshippers in Eruku in Ekiti local government area of Kwara State and mass school abduction in Magatown in Kebbi State, as well as in Papiri in Niger State. The Minister of Defense, Mr. Badaru, also resigned his position. He was immediately replaced by General Christopher Musa. As Nigeria grappled with the issues, the United States government under President Donald Trump designated Nigeria a country of particular concern, accusing the government of complicit over an alleged genocide against Christians, which sparked debate both in the country and outside the country on the veracity of the claims. Mr. Trump threatened to also deploy U.S. troops to Nigeria. On Christmas Day, Mr. Trump announced that U.S. military carried out bombardments on terrorist enclaves in Nigeria. The federal government later confirmed President Donald Trump's announcement, saying it was a joint operation. The announcement came barely a day after a mosque in Gambaru Market in Maiduguri in Borno State was attacked by suicide bombers.
It's all security measures. Anything you can put in place to prevent the loss of lives and property, put them in place. If it's going to take the international community to ensure the protection of lives of the Nigerian people, put it in place.
Nigeria needs to be very careful to ensure that there is fairness, there is equity, and there is balance in terms of how these operations are carried out. It should never be seen to be against a particular faith or a particular ethnic group. If that happens, then it will create more problems.
Despite the setbacks, security forces recorded gains. Approximately 3,000 bandits and terrorists were neutralized. At least 1,000 kidnapped victims were rescued. The force public relations officer, CSP Benjamin Hundayin, also highlighted major achievements recorded by the Nigeria police in the year.
Total of suspects arrested for the year, 5,721. And in terms of recoveries for firearms, we recovered a total of 1,766 firearms. And for ammunition, we recovered a total of 13,487 ammunition. Do not forget, this is across the country from January till date.
In terms of investments in security, the Tinubu administration in 2025 allocated over 6 trillion naira to security and defense, with over 4 trillion naira for personnel costs and over 1 trillion naira for capital expenditure on hardware. But analysts say funding must reach operational overheads and intelligence fusion to translate into safer communities.
For me, I will advise that the Nigerian government should carry out this war as an intelligence-driven war, because if we don't, bring in intelligence, I will not be able to succeed. And 2026, I will strongly advise that the Nigerian political elite should stop the use of talks.
Nigerians should expect a sustained fight sustained onslaughts on criminals, on terrorists, on bandits, sustained.
As 2025 closes, Nigeria's security remains fragile, but experts believe if the federal government prioritizes community-based security partnerships in the coming year, strengthen intelligence sharing across agencies, and invest in conflict prevention mechanisms that address root causes, coupled with reforms that build trust between citizens and security forces, Nigeria can begin to turn the tide towards lasting stability. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Let's begin with security, or a lack of it. From the report that you just seen, experts are thinking whether we have a fragile security system or not. A renewed onslaught against insecurity in the nation these days is giving some thoughts in a good number of quarters. So we're hoping to hear from the Minister of Defense this morning, General Christopher Musa, but for one reason or the other, he's unable to make it tonight. However, we have a panel of gentlemen who will be discussing with us. With us here in the studio is Onyekachi Adekoya, who is a security expert and MD of Aquiline Intelligence Consulting. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
This evening. Well, also joining us this time from our Abuja studio is Major General Rogers Ibe Nicholas, who is a former commander Operation Lafia Dole in the Northeast. He's commander Operation Safe Haven in the North Central, and a former chief of civil military affairs in the Army headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, General.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. We also have with us from Port Harcourt, Commodore Promise Dapa, who is a former Maritime Guard Commander at the Nigeria Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA. He joins us from Port Harcourt. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much for having me, and a compliment of the season to the Channels team and all our viewers.
I wish you the same. Now, let's begin with you, Mr. Adekoya. Conversations are endless. At the heart of all security, or a lack of it, are the people. It has been established quite significantly that the people have to give information to security agencies. Even the Minister of Defense said it when he was Chief of Defense Staff, that look, we need the population to give us information. Even during his briefing, his hearing at the Senate, he also said the same thing. At the heart of it is people. How would you say we have fared in engaging people in our security apparatus?
Okay. It's not an easy question you've asked, because if you say at the heart of it is people, security, you're looking at an all-of-society approach to security. So you're saying that perhaps the people are not collaborating enough, but the question is collaborating with what? Is there a system for people to key their efforts into? And I'll say yes, there's a system. And again, when we talk about intelligence, perhaps we talk about a siloed approach to security, because the DSS has a station chief. In every local government in Nigeria, we have 774 local governments. So when we talk about a lack of intelligence, sometimes, I mean, those words are lost on me, because I don't know what you say in lack of intelligence. The Nigerian Police Force has an intelligence directorate. The military has its own DMI. There's an intelligence unit, even a corps, intelligence corps. Even in the Nigerian Army, the Air Force has its INT unit, the Navy, same thing. NSCDC has intelligence officers. DSS is State Security Service. Of course, their work is clandestine and core intelligence. So when we say there's no intelligence or the lack of intelligence, I think it's a bit of a play on words, perhaps not very intelligent in a way of putting it, because we have intelligence. And we shouldn't be insulting the intelligence of Nigerians.
So the question, anyway,
Yeah.
let me
even land on the point that we have intelligence.
Okay.
What you do with intelligence is another kettle of fish. And the structure in which you distill that intelligence into actionable path and then creating a program is another problem altogether. I mean, I'm hoping that as we review, we're reviewing this year for improvement. Let me just drop something on the table here. The Office of the National Security Advisor is one of the big problems that we have in Nigeria. That office should not have command. That office should be, I'm coming, you say
we'll come to, you're already beginning to solve the problem, but we'll come to it. Okay. Let me take it to General now. One of the major things that Mr. Adekoya did was to look at it from a national perspective. Now, you have commanded, regional security task forces, Lafayette Dole in the northeast, Safe Haven in the north central. How would you say we have fared? I'm still very much interested, sir, in how we take on the people, how we collaborate with the people, going by the words of General Musa on this particular insecurity challenge we have.
Okay, thank you very much. I think so far so good. I think the military and the other security agencies have done well in 2025. The job is not easy. The issue is a national problem that deserves a national input by everybody. The population of Nigeria has to wake up to see the military and the security agencies as partners in progress in trying to resolve issues of national security. The community must be able to provide actionable intelligence, timely intelligence to the military and other security agencies to be able to execute what we want them to do. Now, somebody talked about, yes, we have various types of intelligence, but it depends on the quality of the intelligence you are getting and how you use those intelligence. There are certain intelligence that will be given to you which are very good intelligence, but you don't have the capacity to execute those intelligence. It becomes a problem. You don't have the technology to execute that intelligence, it becomes a problem. So I think for this 2025, the security agency generally and the military have done very, very well. It has not been easy, that I know. I haven't served in the field severally. And I think we should encourage them, particularly the new command that the president has given to us, the new CDS, the new service chiefs. These are officers that have had a wide range of operational experiences. I have operated with them in the Northeast and the North Central, and I know they can deliver.
Well, Major General, I would like to follow up on this issue of intelligence. Ms. Anyekachi here talked about their silos of intelligence, and you're saying the quality of the intelligence. But perhaps we could also bring in the fact of the will to work on intelligence that's available, because I believe it was the attack in Plateau State where one of the residents there came to say that the news was out that there was going to be an attack, and yet the officials or the security agency did not make any move, did not make any move concerning it. So can we also say that perhaps the will, if it's politics, or the political will to work on the intelligence that's even available?
Okay, what happened? You see, there are times that the intelligence given to you are really not actionable intelligence. And if we know the terrain of these areas we're talking about, both in Plateau and the Northeast, these are massive areas and the terrains are very rugged terrains that in some situations you might get intelligence that are going to be attacking a village. And the village location with the military position might just be about 3 kilometers. But moving to such area will take you almost 6 hours because of the rugged nature of the terrain. So what these are challenges that yes, you get this information, this intelligence, but how fast can you move to such places? What technology do you have to be able to call such actions or to deal with such situations? You have a station in, for instance, let me give an example of Plateau. You have a station in Mangu, and then the location is between Nasarawa State and Plateau State, and there are no access roads to those places. If you have to go to that location, it's just about maybe 3 kilometers or 4 kilometers from where the military location is. But there are no location, no means of movement, no accessibility to such locations. And you don't have the technology, so okay, let me carry out long-range activities to intervene. So these are some of the problems. So we also have challenges, you know. But I'm not giving that as an excuse. But what I'm going to say is that the terrain is so large, and we don't have enough men on the ground to cover all the spaces. And we don't have enough technology to deal with the situation. That's the obvious truth about these things that we're talking about. And because the terrorists also have an advantage of the forest, they go in quickly with bikes, moving, you know, commandeer the people, at times put fear into the people. And then with that, the people can't even give you information because they are so scared that these people are going to come back and deal with them. So it's a whole complex situation.
All right. Let's bring in Commander Dapa. Let me identify what both Mr. Onyekachi and the General have mentioned, and maybe you add to that list. What they're talking about is the fact that there's enough intelligence, but issues around infrastructure. The General talked about the ability to carry out this intelligence in terms of capacity. There's also the suspicion of who is commanding what. What do you see from all that you've heard so far, from the point of the actionable intelligence that we're talking about? Because it looks like sometimes there's intelligence, infrastructure could be a problem, apparatus in terms of equipment could be a problem, or just the lack of will. What do you see, or what do you know?
Okay, thank you very much. You see, all these things we are talking about, if you focus on challenges, you can have 1,001 challenges why an operation may fail, or why a military action cannot succeed, or why things will go wrong. Because the whole gamut of all this has to do with capacity. You must develop capacity to be able to handle issues. Like what the General said, you are operating in areas like that where there are difficult terrains, you can't, no access road. What do you need? There must be the capacity for quick response. The way you operate in such areas is by air movement, air transportation, air transportability. You must have small aircraft that can be able to move a company, a small group of men, that when once you get an intelligence, within 20, 30 minutes, you should be able to deploy into a place. And you have them in silos in areas, whereby when once you get an early warning, something is going to happen or there's a strike somewhere, before the people even finish the strike, the help has arrived. This is what has worked in most other areas that have experienced insurgency. We saw it in Vietnam, we saw it in many other places. So, and all these years, we needed to build those capacities and not to bemoan all these problems. Then issue of strategic communication is also key. We are operating, take for instance, the just environment that we are talking about. It has been known over time that these communities are in far-flung places, no access road. We must have small units, like we are talking, if you have 2 or 3 men in a place and they have communication, we will be able to, when there's an incident, they give an early warning, then the main body will be able to respond. But what we are having now is that whether there is intelligence or no intelligence, even when you get intelligence, you cannot act. Because there is no platform, there is no capacity to be able to reach the place. And so when you have a small group of people deployed, there are 3, 4, 5 men deployed, and there are no support, no backup. What do they do? When the enemies, the attackers come, they will just withdraw. So what we needed to do to be able to address all this issue of capacity. And that's why, for me, I don't like to harp on too much the issue of blaming the people, saying, give us capacity, they give us intelligence, or this issue of a whole of society. When we begin to have much on this whole of society issue, it takes the responsibility away from what was supposed to be the main issue to what was supposed to be complementary. The citizens are supposed to complement the effort of the military, the security agencies. They are the ones that will build the capacity, build the network that the people can slot in. And like you said, if you know what it takes for an intelligence to move from the grassroots, from a village level to the commander that will give the order, you will be amazed. Because somebody picks up an intelligence from the village, who does it pass it to? Maybe it goes to the local policeman there. The local policeman will pass it to his immediate boss, who might even far from the person that will give command. And that person will pass it to another person. Before that information will even reach to the person that will analyze it to give the command, the incident has already taken place and passed. So unless it is the commander that is responsible for that theater, has a structure whereby once he has an intelligence, it gets to him, he's able to analyze it and to act immediately, all these things will not work. So what I'm trying to say is that it has to do with the issue of capacity. We must build capacity. At the state level, we must have the infrastructure, the network that the security agents can key in. We must also begin to see how we can bring civilians, specialists into this system, so that when the military come and go, the structure will still remain there. You, the security agents, you come in, you just key into the structure, whatever is on ground, and you're able to operate seamlessly. So that's my take on that.
If I can quickly ask you something before we bring in our next guest. The three of you, as Jeffrey highlighted, have harped on intelligence and capacity. Not even ability now, but capacity. So if you don't mind, drill it down. When you say capacity, exactly what do you mean?
Yes. Now, capacity has to do with the ability for you to in place an early warning system, whereby from the grassroots, what you get as an information must be able to reach the person or the institution that will quickly analyze it and take action immediately. Let's take, for instance, you have, like in a particular area in a city now, there is maybe say a brigade level or a battalion responsible for the operation there, and you have deployed. And the way you deploy in sectors, have commanders in those areas. Now, a sector gets an information. A local brings an information to the sector commander. He must be able, through a channel, that will pass this information immediately to the battalion commander, who will analyze it immediately and know whether the threat is imminent. If the threat is imminent,
very,
then you'll be able to move
and they're actually sounding a lot like...
and to be able to act, these are what we are saying, and these are what I'm missing in this operation.
General,
Commodore,
if you can hear me.
Is quick response capability. I get an information, a small village, a community is going to be ransacked or attacked, and I have many...
Commodore, if you can hear me, it is all sounding very good, and perhaps even more like... military 101, you know, to a good number of Nigerians now. But let's see if these are some of the things that our next guest understands. Is Professor Okeke Chukwu is with us, Executive Director, System Specs Academy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
This evening. I would have said, what are you doing in Lagos? But don't worry, you're on holiday.
Since when did you become a Lagos native?
Come on. Now, we're talking about the fact that we're grappling with insecurity. I would like to bring it from an angle that you know will probably serve your own space a little further. One of the major ingredients of factors that insecurity has addressed severely in our nation is the economy, social welfare, and a good number of other things like that. And the questions remain about whether or not we're still grappling in December as we were in January, or whether you think there is a tiny glimmer of hope somewhere.
We are grappling, certainly. If you want to speak of glimmer of hope, when the most recently retired Chief of Defense Staff is made Minister of Defense, and is replacing a minister who said that you cannot penetrate where the bandits are, it gives us hope. Because the person who has taken over as Minister of Defense is, he has combat experience. He's been in service until a few weeks ago. So that's the hope you might want to talk about. The president has procured some equipment. That suggests hope. Deployment and successful use is what will convince us that it will lead to better security. Now, the question of impact. You cannot live any kind of life in an insecure environment. The economy will suffer. In the case of Nigeria, you know, some people have been in refugee camps for, at IDP camps for close to 5 years. They're in the northern part of the country, and when you leave land uncultivated there, read the certification takes place. So to reclaim that land, you need to work on it for 2 years, 3 years. The people are not being resettled. There's money going into it, Northeast Development Commission and all the rest of it. Now, all that money, to the best of my knowledge, is going into procurement. When you buy mosquito net, bags of rice, it cannot bring me back to my village. So they also need for a recalibration of the purpose of interventions in the war-torn areas. Now, you're speaking of social life. I'm even speaking about the concept of community and social cohesion. If I am 6 years of age, and I grew up in an IDP camp, I have no concept of community. I have no concept of parental authority. I have no concept of personal dignity if I'm a girl. And you have reports of those who do all kinds of things with the refugees not to give them food. So putting it all together, 3 things are clear on the table for me. Number 1, there is still insecurity. Number 2, there's a possibility of improvement given the measures being taken. And also the fact that no part of the country is spared. You're talking about, oh, you know, bandits, they're overrunning churches. Are they not overrunning mosques? Are they not overrunning road users? Are the elite not being shot at? Ask yourself how many northern senators and lawmakers go home feeling comfortable. So it's even worse when you talk of actual danger of being taken out, because they start shooting without fight before they find out who you are. So the dangers are real. Insecurity is on the table. The other last point I'd like to make is we're overstretching the Nigerian army. Completely. They have no business on the road. They are trained to deal with defined targets. Today, the targets are embedded in communities. I'm going to say a place like Munshi to get rid of bandits. Now, the bandits have buried themselves within the community, and by my training, I shoot definite targets. There's no target to shoot. In addition, my boys who should be either in the barracks or elsewhere, many of them are on the road. Number 3, I overheard the conversation about actionable intelligence, and I like some of the responses, particularly that of Rogers. You give me intelligence. There's no question about that. But I have no means of moving to the location on time to combat it because of the terrain. That is a fact, repeatedly confirmed across several platforms, and is not about Nigeria. 2022, I think I mentioned this in one of your programs. I was in N'Djamena, multinational joint task force headquarters, and we were there for 10 days, and we could see what it meant. The impenetrability of the enclave there. Not that it cannot be penetrated, but the challenge land forces, ground forces have. And also the fact that part of the community assists the bandits and terrorists with information. And they complain that, you know, when the army come, they will drive out all these people, they will go away, the army will go away, and then they will come and attack us again. Point to note, that is not the fault of the army, number 1. It is not the business of the military to maintain community life. That's what we are forgetting. That when there's no civilian responsible administration to hold the place, I'm available for radicalization. I have no job. When my local government chairman receives 200 million a month, and we don't even see him, he's not living in the local government, tell me why there shouldn't be banditry. All the young men, all they do, and young ladies, all they do with the energy. So the conversation is always one-sided against those who are really sacrificing their lives. Their fathers, their mothers, their brothers, their relations. People are dying every day. And the question of, I heard you talk about capacity and all of that. There was one debate I was part of very recently concerning the military. If you take the military budget, I think how many, 7 trillion, right? 6.7, yes. Now,
that's 5.4.
Convert that, 4 point something for personnel. Okay. Now, convert that to dollars. That's the first step. Use the value of the dollar 3-4 years ago to find out what it is today. I don't know if you get the logic I'm heading to. Okay, you gave me 1.5 million naira 3 years ago, 4 years ago. That means you gave me $3,000 at 500. Now you give me 1.5 million naira today, you're giving me $1. That's the angle nobody is looking at. The MRAP, if you're going to buy 10 of it, is about 1 trillion. Is it? Or 1 billion? I don't remember, whatever may be the detail. So you see them and see the kind of money they are giving them. 3, on this budget thing, how much of it is released? Does anybody know? There are issues, and I'm glad I'm not in the military, frankly. They are so unfortunate, no kidding. So unfairly, if anything goes wrong today, 100% condemnation. That's why I think it was on this channel I was, during that Kaduna bombing incident. They had been doing bombing all the year, 10 months. Then there was a misfire, and that's the only conversation. What kind of army do we have? Why should they shoot anybody? The concept of friendly fire is not new, it's not in my language. So there also has to be a more balanced public perspective on national security, with everybody feeling, I'm a target. Those are some of the issues. When a stranger comes into my village and is around for about 3 weeks, moving around, not talking to, I don't report to anybody. Say, good, no, it's not my business. It will be your business when they come knocking.
All right, Prof. Let me ask Mr. Adekoya. So a lot of issues have been brought up now. You started the issue of intelligence, although they exist mostly in silos. We've heard about capacity. We've heard Prof now talk about the other side of the divide, which is, first of all, the army is not supposed, to be protecting communities, and how difficult it's become because a lot of these enemies are now part of the community. And talking about the budget, and we know that the defense has the highest, last year, this year. So one would say, as he said, that, I mean, that is a lot of money. But when you look at the reality on ground, and I know you started saying something the first time you were talking about the Office of the Special Advisor on Security. So it seems there's a whole lot to put together. I wonder if we can ever get out of this insecurity, because, I mean, we have thought that mass abduction, especially in schools, were over until we saw it again here in 2025.
No, so I think it was Ayo that started and saying that someone had said there was no intelligence. And then we made the point to say intelligence is not the issue, it's the capability and the capacity to deal with the intelligence that you have. To put all of this together, Nigeria faces a bit of a wicked problem. And we are responding to symptoms rather than dealing with the real issue. So the issue of the ONSA, for example, the 1986 Act that establishes the National Security Advisor's Office says that ONSA shall be a security advisor and aid to Mr. President and coordinate, not have command, coordinate 3 agencies, the NIA, the DMI, and the DSS. Only. What do we have today? The National Counterterrorism Center sits with ONSA. And other command elements. The ONSA office is a sprawling complex with different dimensions. Now we have a retired Chief of Defense Staff who is now made Minister of Defense. And Mr. President had declared state of emergency on insecurity in Nigeria. What that means is follow the lines. We're going to search. There's something called troop search. You need to search resources, you need to search capacity, because now the Commander-in-Chief has declared an emergency. Should a cabinet minister, veteran warfighter, have any locking of horns with ONSA, what do you think will happen? We'll come back again to silos. And then we begin a siloed approach. So what I'm saying is that, let's even start with the framing of the security advisor's role. That should be a policy-led office, not a command function in any shape, way, or form. So that it is from there that Mr. President is being given the best possible advice on national security, and then creating a security program that works for the country, so that the different arms of security and agencies will key into the overarching, not that, you see, it's like we have unity schools, what we call federal government colleges. Useless. We don't need them. The Minister of Education should create policy, create the environment, and supervise and monitor. You cannot be supervising and playing at the shop floor with the same people at the same time. So when you begin to create that institutional weakness just by design, these things will not work. And lastly, when the Commodore was speaking, the military are trained. Police will not come and tell you they don't have equipment, but they don't have equipment. They can't do, they are magicians. As it were today, these guys are magicians. They won't tell you what they are going through. You receive intelligence. There was, I can't remember which of the states now. They said it was in Kebbi, that where did the soldiers go to? They did a tactical withdrawal, which was the sensible thing to do. We don't understand convoy protection. You send a team out on a fighting patrol. First, they are fighting blind. Next thing, they are fighting unprotected. So the community comes out to say they are coming.
So do we trace this back to financing? Because Professor
it's about that. The financing will come to it. It's about creating a program, first of all. If you had the program, that program will tell you that we need local industry. We need to onshore some of our own defense capabilities. If you don't have a thriving local defense industry, you cannot be the giant of Africa. We cannot be importing everything.
All right, just hold on. I want to get Major General to comment on this. Major General, do you agree with Mr. Adekoya that perhaps our security architecture needs to be redefined and restructured?
Yeah, thank you. I think to a certain level I agree with him, because we need to do a lot of restructuring in the security domain because of the current situation we find ourselves. But like I said earlier on, the Minister of Defense, the Chief of Defense Staff, and the Service Chief, particularly the Chief of Army Staff, are officers who are crack battlefield officers who I know have fought, and they have very wide knowledge about the situation. So there is need for us to also look down and see what to do with other services, not just the security agencies, but the other services, the civil defense, the immigration, the customs, the fire service. They're all important. We need to integrate all these ones into the national security architecture, not just leaving everything for the military and say the military do this, the military do that. And like Professor said, the issue of good governance at this local government level is critical to what we are doing. As long as we don't have commanders, leaders, political leaders at the local government level who are responsible to dealing with situation, to passing adequate information, then we have a lot of problems at times. Then you talked about capacity. Let me say a bit about this capacity of a team. If you give an intelligence to the military and then we don't have the equipment, the technology, this is an area we're talking about the capacity. We have the men, but we don't have the equipment, we don't have the technology to deal with some situations. To gather intelligence, to process intelligence is not an easy job. It's not just get an information and then you say that. You have to process it through the intelligence cycle to be able to actually get what is intelligence. It's not every information that comes to you that's intelligence. So we need to do more to restructure some of the agencies that we have actually to be able to get the best of it for us.
Let's take it to Commander Dapper. And I want to take a bit of a detour and maybe segue a bit. It looks like fundamentally we're saying there are so many problems. But let's talk about what the enemy is doing and how to respond, Commander Dapper. The enemy is very great at optics and signals. So for instance, I'll give you an example. When Donald Trump said what he wanted to say, you see a surge. The bomb dropped in Sokoto. Just before that, we saw the resurgence of IEDs, and after that, we saw resurgence of IEDs. Constantly telling us that no matter what you do, we've got our bases covered. How do we fight the perception war if we can't have the mastery over infrastructure war? Commodore.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just break down some of the things I said before capacity. Let me now tell you what really works. Like the last speaker before the last said, you can't win this war without a resource surge, without a surge in resources. We will be deceiving ourselves. 5.6 trillion naira comes to about $3.9 billion. That is not up to what Libya, a war-torn country, signed for military equipment with Pakistan recently. Libya, a country, war-torn country, signed a military deal with Pakistan for $4 billion. $4 billion. So if Libya is doing $4 billion for military equipment, how much should Nigeria be doing? We should be doing 10. A few years ago, Morocco, that is not under any insurgency even, signed a deal of $5 billion to receive 48 Apache helicopters for their armed forces. And as I speak, the first batch of about 24 or 30 have been released already. These are the things that work. There must be a resource surge. $3.9 billion is what I think during this state of emergency the president should have announced. We should have been hearing a deal. Say we are doing a deal with America, with Turkey, with Japan, with Russia for $5 billion. We are going to do $10 billion deal for arms, for re-equipping the armed forces in the next 2-3 years, in the next 4 years. We are going to be doing $3 billion every year, $4 billion every year, to clamor about 4, 10, 15 billion in the next 5 or 10 years. That is what works. We must bring Nigeria to a level, the pre-1980 standard. Right. Today, everybody is quick to talk of our exploit in Ecomog, in Sierra Leone, what we did there. It was not because we are Nigeria, it was because of the capacity that was built during the Shagari administration. Nigeria then has some of the latest equipment in warfare. The latest jet, MiG-29.
Oh dear. Let's come to you, Prof. So he's gone back to the issue of capacity or equipment in this sense. In fact, while he was talking, I was looking at the entire budget. It was running through my head. And I know that there was a time that for FX accretion, we did forward sales with the NNPCL to get some. Oh dear.
Oh, I think we have him back.
Oh. Spending now is stipends.
Okay.
5 billion at the end of the day, 1 trillion is coming for capital project. How much do you use to maintain barracks? How much do you use to other things? And how much of it goes to equipment? And you are talking of contending with ISIS that they imagine. They are using drones now to drop munitions, and you don't have anti-drone capacity. We have been talking of MRAP right from since I was in service over 5 years ago. How many has Nigeria acquired? At the time when Niger Republic came with a brigade to assist Nigeria in 2019 or thereabout, a brigade came with 200 MRAPs. Then Nigeria had none. And these are the things we are talking about. These are the things that work. And instead of putting money in equipment, announcing budgets that will build capacity and capability for the armed forces, we are bringing in forest guard to increase personnel or increase overhead, so that this 5 trillion we are talking about for the defense and security sector will further deplete. I don't know whoever advised the president that forest guard is the solution for people that are in the bush that the military cannot contend with. Is this forest guard that are used to protect forests against loggers and animal parks and all those things? That's what we are using to go and confront insurgents. So we need to change our mentality. We need to change the essence of state of emergency is for the president to be able to announce a surge in resources.
All right.
We want to hear those declarations of $5 billion mass arms deal with a company, government to government, not the one some politician will go and use.
Let me come in here. I see how passionately you have spoken.
We need capacity.
If you can hear me.
You are talking about when the capacity is quick response. You must.
My apologies, Commander Dapa. I think the conversation has taken a life of its own. I tried to move to the perception angle, but we're back to the in fact, our budget, because I like to look at numbers. Both last year and this year, if we do the exchange rate by, say, 1,500, debt servicing is in the region of what it's talking about, $10 billion. So we don't have the money.
Attention is being called to our debt servicing. So if we're to do
$10 billion to service debt year on year, that last year and this year, which we must service, whether it's in bonds, it's in T-bills, or literal direct borrowing. So where I'm going to with that question is that we may not have money. So what do we do?
No. Even before we say we may not have money, let's acknowledge the core challenges. Military hardware is international hardware. It's an international market. There's no Nigerian bomb. If there is, it will be costed in international terms. So when you carry out an operation and you drop 2 bombs, tons of millions have gone. And they expect you to also go there to, whether you hit the target, even if you shut down your mother's kitchen in Aero, you can't recover the money.
Yeah.
Correct? And how many do you have? How many operations? That's why sometime, I think under Buhari, when they said they were going to now use, what do you call it, fighter planes to escort the Kaduna train, I shook my head in dismay. Total folly. I don't want to even talk about it, honestly, you know. So you then talk over, so you look at that, the hardware has international figures on it. And if there's any operation going on, if you recall, during the Gulf War, the U.S. was blowing $1 billion every day on that offshore landing platform. Cost of war per day during the Gulf War. So the issue of the budget is there, but there are also other issues if we want to be really frank about it. National security lies more with citizen consciousness than kinetic engagement. Look around, let's look around us. Most of the beggars we see are within the age of 16 and 3. That means they were born within this democracy, and their population is growing every day. If you also look within the country, you find that government budget has also been increasing, even if you transfer it to dollars. And then you ask yourself, in the North has 19 states? Yeah? That is the space one man administered, Ahmadu Bello. The Southwest has how many states? That's the space one man administered. Southeast, 1, then later Midwest. The point I'm making is 4 state apparatus administered this country. Today we have 36 state apparatus.
Plus 1.
The cost has been multiplied by 36. There are more commissioners. In addition to commissioners, you have governors that have up to 2,000 SAs, most of whom, of course, he doesn't know their names. Now, that's the cost of public administration. What does it deliver? Nothing. Each commissioner has a fleet of vehicles. You come to the level of, to the one of ministers they have, pilot, escort, CSO, and maybe an ambulance as well, and you have governors. What is it they're doing? So the criminalization of public administration is not what you're thinking about. You sit down and blow that kind of money among people who, if you're really to sit down and honestly ask yourself what they are doing, you can't put your finger on it. And then they build new houses, they drive new cars. Go to most villages in Nigeria. Anybody who left that village in 1970, coming back today, he won't see significant difference. Is your village different, are you? That's the point. Development is not taking place. In addition, evolution of consciousness is not taking place also. The generation of social consciousness, remember it was in this country that somebody from Kano became mayor of Enugu against an Igbo man. That an Igbo man won election in Lagos, that Chike Obi won election. Now, we've gone back to where we were even before the colonialists came. What does that tell you? Loyalty to the Nigerian state is disappearing because there's that concern. Now, without loyalty to the Nigerian state, when you see anybody in uniform, he symbolizes the state and attracts your anger. Without you realizing that without that man or woman in uniform, then that's why you're endangering yourself. That's why you'll find people who will go to the east, destroy a police station, burn down a NEC office, and they say they are hitting Nigeria. Maybe. Who did you kill in the process of destroying a NEC office? Your neighbors, people in the same area. What do you achieve by destroying the police station? You take away you create room for opportunistic criminality. And so anybody, if you're angry with me, you can now come and shoot me, and they say it's IPOB. Those are the things. But coming back to the substantive issue of national security. Yes, the Commodore raised the issue of forest guards. It's an attempt to deal with security. The question to ask with a sense of history is, was there insecurity when there was no forest guards in the forest? The answer is no. And that's why I have a major issue with what you call the expansion of state apparatus without sitting down. The world is, you're doing convergence. If you pick up your phone now and disaggregate what is inside it, you're going to put a big video camera because it's inside. You're going to put an alarm clock. You're going to put a laptop. If you put out all that's been miniaturized in that phone, it will take a room. The world is miniaturizing. We are going back to the facilities Adam and Eve used in the garden.
Oh dear. Well, until then, but but General, let me ask you this. Now let's look forward to 2026. These are the issues that have occurred in 2025, and we can't continue to do the same thing and expect different results. A few things have happened, and just as Prof said earlier, maybe those things will give us hope for the year ahead. So what are your expectations, General? You raised the issue of a need for, well, to use Prof's word, convergence around security apparatus. So all security agencies of government need to find a way to work together so everyone knows everyone's responsibility. That you also raised the issue, there's another issue that's been raised about the fact that the president declared a state of emergency in the security space. There is also the appointment of the Minister of Defense, former general, well, always a general, Christopher Musa, who should have been here with us today, by the way. So in all of that, what are your expectations? What needs to change? What needs to happen? What needs to be retained? What is missing? We know money is an issue. The issue that Commodore raised earlier, by the way, talking about the $4 billion in Libya, it's over a 2.5-year period. Is it something that we can also consider? What are your thoughts? What needs to change in 2026 in our approach to security?
Well, thank you very much. I think the nation has started well with the changes in the Security Department, particularly with the appointment of Musa as his Minister of Defense, because the former minister had him say that we can't throw bombs in forests where the bandits are. That means he doesn't have knowledge about how military operations go about. Now, thank God we have Musa there, the service chief. Like I said, there are crack officers who are used to operations, so they know what to do. Put together all these people, I think by 2026 we are going to see a lot improvement in our security situation. And I also know that with the establishment of depots in Ebonyi, in Osun, and the existing one in Zaria, recruiting more men means having more boots on the ground and means a better training. And so that is also something that will help us in the year to come. And looking at what is happening now, I can see the Chief of Minister touring around the operational areas, having conversation with the troops on the ground, and the minister is doing the same. I think that is a good start because you really need to go to the field to find out how the people are feeling, how your men are doing, and to also listen to them and pick up challenges, how to help them out. I think by next year we'll do better. And the Air Force is doing very, very well. They will increase the rate of their bombardments and operational capacity in that area, if I will say that. They've done so well. And also the maritime domain, the Navy is doing its best to reduce the issue of oil theft and illegal bunkering, among others. But put together, I think by next year, 2026, if we get our acts together, including the Nigerian police and other services, the DSS, I think we would definitely see an improved security situation in 2026. The president has also made arrangements to buy some equipment, some aircraft, I'm told, and I'm also aware that some equipments are coming to the military. So I think by 2026, we are likely to see an improved level of improvement. And for the fact that most Nigerians are also rising up to the issue, to the passing information to the necessary agencies. Having said that, I think there's need for us to also talk to service providers to see how they can provide services, communication services to some local areas so that communication will be possible to be able to, so that we can galvanize all what we are doing together to be able to achieve a stable situation. Thank God, I'm happy that the professor said that the soldiers on the highway have been reduced, which is what we've been crying for, particularly in the southeast. where every 1 kilometer of 200 meters you see soldiers mounting roadblocks. The removal of these people from the roadblock and moving to the operational area is very, very germane. So I want to thank the CDS for taking, the Minister of Defense for that action he took. And I also want to encourage the IG to do also so his men, where necessary. We don't need to put people everywhere, and where we have issues of challenges, and then we are putting men on roadblock and things like that. So that's my take. I believe that by next year, a lot has to be done. A lot of achievement will be made by the security agencies.
All right. Let me come to Mr. Dekoya. Professor K did imply the issue of the vulnerability of some of these people, the age limit, and how they are easily recruited and co-opted, into this insecurity. Do you think that perhaps dealing with poverty, we know that in 2025 the number of multi-dimensionally poor Nigerians increased. Do you think that perhaps dealing with poverty could also, in one way, solve the problem of insecurity?
Two ways. The issue of poverty is, we've looked at the data, and the data is a bit inconclusive. You will have thought that crime would be most prevalent in the most poorest part of Nigeria, but crime occurs just about everywhere. So the issue goes beyond poverty. There are issues of the criminal justice system and the challenges of that, and the amount of cases the judges have to deal with, the IPOs and all of that. I think that going forward, what I would like to see, and just to sound a bit of a note of caution, we can have a mercy on our team if you say we are all commending Mr. President for the appointment of Musa as Minister of Defense. But I'm afraid a lot would not change, because the military alone cannot change the context. To answer your question on poverty, when you have paucity of funds, you must become innovative. And what does innovation require? Is that in our case, we must take chain of command to where chain of command becomes the most effective. We must bring the state governors and the subnational political class into the security picture. Part of why we have failed, and will continue to fail, is that we assume that internal security is the prime responsibility of Mr. President. And that's why innovative solutions are not coming up. Mr. President is in Aso Rock. The man has 36 states plus one to worry about, plus our 923,000 square kilometers of landmass. And then you have to deal with international obligations and international diplomacy. He cannot do it. So I'm hoping that for once, this issue of state police will not just be lip service, because we can see clearly that the country is at a great disadvantage and risk if we over-domesticate the military. So when you have the state police, you are bringing chain of command down to the subnational level. There's a governor who is in charge of his own domain. And then you bring in the local government, what you call county police. You don't have to bloat it, but at least let's have state police, so that you can relieve the armed forces from some of these issues. For example, if you lose your handkerchief, for example, you go and call a federal police officer. Some of these issues can be declassified out of the federal purview, so that our police, that's why the initiative of Mr. President is very good, to withdraw the police from VIP protection. It doesn't solve the problem, but what has that done? It has raised everybody's consciousness that insecurity is now everybody's problem, whether you are rich or you are poor. So everybody's paying attention now to the issue of security. But we've created a gap. You've withdrawn protection, you've not provided an alternative. In South Africa and Kenya, private security companies that renew their licenses every year, that are vetted by the State Security Service, they carry arms. You can classify their weapons so that you limit proliferation, and all these systems can be in place. So when you withdraw my police officer, you create an alternative. I can be protected, because the economy, 80%, 70% is run by the private sector. These people need protection. So I think all in all, it's a complex problem. What I want to see in 2026 is let's stop paying lip service to state police because we are at a critical junction. We do not have the funds. There was a time when we said money is not our problem in Nigeria, but today we can see clearly that we have a money problem. Forest guards, who will hold the forest guard to account in their domain? It will still be the same federal thing. So we need to take command to the grassroots.
Now we're talking solutions, so let's take it to Commander Dapper. I don't know whether I still want to double down, Commander Dapper, on the things you said, but now we're looking for a way forward. We're looking at 2025 in retrospect, and we're trying to chart a pathway for 2026. If you were to bullet it, 1, 2, 3, action, urgency like yesterday, what would they be if you could do it in 1 minute?
Okay, so the things that we need to do, there are some basic things to do. I want to tell the president that the solution, the key solution to this problem of insecurity is in his office, right there in his office. His chief of staff, when he was the Speaker of the House of Representatives, conducted a comprehensive security retreat in this country. And the communique that was released after that retreat was very comprehensive. Everything I've been talking about here that needs to be done to address security is in that document. And why will he be in the corridors of power today and he has been silent over that? That is very, very unfortunate. So let's start with that first. The security, the current Minister of, Honorable Minister of Defense, when he was the Chief of Defense Staff, at the risk of his appointment, talked about border security in this country. That you cannot have a secure Nigeria without a secure border. A lot of people criticize him that he was criticizing government, and he has mentioned it. And we are having a budget today that not capture border security. When we will start talking about border security? If you don't secure your border, without border security, there can be no security. Three, I'm not a student of the liberal security theory that always talk about food and bread and butter security. What we are facing today is an existential threat. It does not answer to bread and butter.
All right, Commander. Prof.
Do not answer to bread and
butter.
Yeah,
it's talking solutions.
Work or whatever. We are talking on.
Go on, Prof. Yes.
Talking solutions.
Yes.
3 points in 30 seconds.
3 points. Number 1, Nigerians should be armed.
Explain.
Law,
in 10 seconds.
License for your gun. Certain category of people should be allowed, just like before. Before, the pump action was under license. Even the French Jivan rifle, as a lecturer at Unilag, I was saving money to buy one before the license knocked it out. Now, Amin will require you that as you procure a gun, there are, just like you said, certified security companies, there should be places you should learn to use the gun properly. You can begin with a range. Okay, if you're up to the rank of deputy director, it's equivalent in anywhere. You can own a gun if you can afford one. You buy duly licensed, you go for training, you're certified, I can use it well. If there's that, there'll be some concern about raiding anybody's house. You know, that's one. 2, yes, so the forest guards should not be the sort of thing we had with, what was this thing that was done? One of those youth programs and employment programs for which there was no budget after 1 year. I think it was during the Jonathan time. If anything, and for me, seriously and particularly, the forest guards and all these proliferating outfits should be recollapsed. If they're going to be federal forest guards, they should go into any of the existing services. We can't have these commands flying all over the place.
It sounding to me like the infrastructure for state police is already on. Forest guard is just
okay, well,
thank you so much for your time this morning. Beg your pardon this evening, Professor K.K. Chukwu, Executive Director, System Sex Academy. I appreciate your time. Today, we've also had Mr. Onyekachi Adekoya. But, oh, by the way, Prof, you're not going anywhere. We're still holding on to you, just so you know.
This is the era of kidnapping.
Don't worry. We'll give you water. That's the answer. Mr. Onyekachi Adekoya, MD, Aquila Intelligence Consulting. Thank you so much for your time today. We've also had Major General Rogers Ibe Nicholas, former Commander Operation Lafayette Dole in the Northeast and Commander Operation Safe Haven in the North Central. He has also been Chief of Civil Military Affairs at the Army Headquarters. General, we appreciate your time so much this evening, as well as Commodore Promise Dapper, former Maritime Guard Commander at the Nigeria Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.